ReefDudes is sponsored by Brightwell Aquatics and Bulk Reef Supply.
Today it's all about ATOs and mixing stations. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. Now, I've had a ton of questions lately about my mixing station and kind of all my setup and how I have it all automated. So today we're going to deep dive into it and take a look. Now, as you can tell, this is my laundry area, which doubles as my mixing station. It's still functional space for the family. So what I did is actually got the stacker washer and dryer, which freed up the space to the right beside it, and it's where my mixing station is. So I have two bins down here. Now to access it, I did make a little fold-up table. And here we have one for RODI and one for saltwater. Now, with this is also automated to extent. First off, I get asked all the time, where did I get the bins? These were custom made-ish. There's a local place called Elcro Plastics, and I just went through all their stock sizes and found the one that was closest to fit my space. And I believe these sizes probably normally for like RV storage or something like that. And I got them to put the big port holes in the top so it's easy to get in there, clean it and whatnot. So to start out, actually before we go in there, now the heart of the mixing station is of course the RODI unit. And one upgrade I did a little while ago is add a booster pump. Now this definitely helps you make water faster and it makes your filters more efficient. So there's a few kind of pluses there. I did run an EB832 down here to kind of control it all. I do have the one Vortex, so I actually use an old MP40 as my saltwater mixing inside. So there's no holes in the bottom of the bin, which is kind of a nice touch. And if you come over to the side, you kind of see the channel right around all my hoses down from my tank above. So if we look over here, we also have a Neptune solenoid, and that is kind of my main way to turn the water on or source water on or off for the RODI unit. Now I also did add an auto flush valve, so when it turns on, it flushes itself for the 60 or 90 seconds beforehand. Now when that comes on, it automatically will refill my bins. And with that, you can see I have an optical sensor on the bottom of this pump. So when that optical sensor is dry, it kicks on my RODI. And if we can get in there, you can kind of see there's another optical sensor on the back there. And when that one gets wet, it turns off the RODI switch. Now we also have a float valve in there as backup. And I have the same thing with the float valves in the saltwater bin for kind of the backup with it. Now, you see I have two pumps in there, so most people are going to ask why. So the first one is for my ATO pump, the feed for my kelp. So I have two verses as well. So one is for an auto water change. So this is my new salt water to the tank. And this one is for my kelp feed. So at nighttime it slowly doses kelp. And that guy just sucks from that little tube in the bottom. Now the other versa is for when I want to refill my mixing bin. So inside I have two float valves there, and when I kick it on, I can either fill it from the RODI unit, you can see the MP40 down there, and you can fill it from the RODI unit. So it comes down and we have a bunch of valves. So this is my product water. So product water comes down and here's a valve, and this just goes to a big hose. So if I want to manually do a water change or something, I got a big hose, I can fill it upstairs and just take my hose over there. Now the other main one comes down and I have fresh water and salt water. So generally I leave it on fresh water and that fills my RODI bin, but if I want to fill the saltwater bin, I just open this valve and I can fill it directly from the RODI unit. So I can control which one gets filled, but for the most part, I leave the saltwater closed and freshwater open and just let that refill my RODI bin when required. And I also have a manual flush valve here. And this is if I want to flush it pre-DI. So if I'm doing a big water change something, I can flush out all the TDS creep. Now, speaking of flushing, I did also add a flush valve for the carbon. So if we crawl back up here, that's the auto flush. And right there is one of those three-way valves. So right now it's in the normal mode, and this is just everything flows through the system as normally. However, if I flip it to the other side, the red, that flushes out my carbon. So if you ever put a new carbon filter in, you generally want to run a few gallons through it to get rid of all the sediment. And that way when I do, just turn the valve, let it run for 5 minutes, turn it off, and my carbon, all those fines are completely flushed out. You don't have to worry about any of them getting inside of your membrane. I'm not constantly asked too, what salt do I use? I've been using Neil Marine for probably close to 2 years now. I've been very happy with it. So I usually just leave my extra in a bag here so I can just dump it in as needed. Got the little hand on salinity tester, so you just pop it in and check your salinity. Now in both bins, I also do have a high and a low sensor. So on the Neptune, I can check if my bins are empty. Now the other half of the oil auto water change sits up here, and this guy takes salt water from my tank and plumps it down to the drain down below. So both pumps kick out at the same time, and I remove water as I add it at the same time. And that's worked really well because there's basically zero fluctuations to the tank. Now in the tank here, we do have the ATK, and it does have the flow valve and the high and low sensor. You can see it is way more flooded than normal right now. And that's because I've been dosing kelp at night. So that one kelp pump from down below comes all the way up into my reactor, and what this does is it mixes up the K2 kelp inside and it drips it back out into the tank. Now I have been dosing double the amount at nighttime for my ATO. Now for the automation side of things, is actually pretty simple. So if we remember at the top, I have the solenoid, and if you look at the settings for it, if RODI low, so that optical sensor is open, aka it's dry, turn on. If the high one is closed, turn off, or if the salt high one is closed, turn off. So either sensor at the high level will turn it off. Now there is that flow valve for backup, but I always like to have that double kind of layers redundancy. Now if we go, so my ATK has actually been off. Now I did use a custom code for this one, so fall back off, set off. If the ATO low is open, then turn on. If the ATO high is closed, then turn off. Defer 10 minutes, then on, so it doesn't click on automatically right away if there's waves or something in there. Defer 4 seconds and off, so minimum time. If its time is more than 60 minutes, so if it's been on for more than an hour, something's probably up, turn off. So that's been kind of my controls that basically runs these pumps. Now for the rest of it, with the two Mobius ones, those are controlled within the app, and that's just telling it to dose a specified amount at a certain time period. So with those, if we look at my dosing for the calc, for instance, so you can see I'm dosing 5 liters from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. And it just splits it up over that time period, and my auto top off hardly ever turns on anymore. It's basically all just done with the calc. Same thing with the two pumps for the auto water change. They run over 2 hours and they both dose the same amount, where one's sucking out and one's pushing in from down below. And all these red lines are my drain, what goes down to the laundry drain. So the drain from the Mastertronic, the waste from the RODI, and my salt water all get piped down the drain. So super easy, no hauling buckets, and it's been an awesome system. Now hopefully I answered all the questions on it, because I've got tons of random questions about it, and I think I covered most of the ones that I've been getting asked. So if I didn't, let me know in the comments and I'll definitely answer that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, hope you learned something, and if you did, as always, hit that like button, and yeah, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.